Hey everybody, it is Zach here from the Ed Boys, and today we are discussing the upcoming poll about the Tempoross. The Tempoross is going to be a fishing boss, which will introduce the third skilling boss into the game. The goal outcome of this boss is to make a more engaging method to train fishing, while also adding some rewards that can benefit some of the traditional methods of fishing gains. The dock that takes you to Tempoross is going to be located in the desert, which alone is a thumbs up from me, since the desert has a huge lack of content for the size of land that is out there. The area that you fight the boss is not actually going to be in that desert, just the boat that takes you out there, but it's not a bad start. The boss fight is looking to be laid out very similar to a Volcano fight, where the boss is going to have a shield phase and then a phase where the shield is down and you can damage the boss, eventually killing it and receiving some loot. The actual process for taking down the shield seems a little bit more resembled to Winter Todd than it does Volcano, where you collect fish from one spot, loading them into a few different cannons, and they fire at the shield. There are going to be a few more mechanics to make the fight a little more engaging, though. There's going to be some special attacks that can disrupt the fish collecting process, like a lightning attack that'll cause fires, a wave attack which can knock the players back and take some of their fish and tools from their inventory, and also a torrent attack which is going to temporarily disable some cannons, overall making the game look a little bit more engaging than Winter Todd, but not really as monotonous as Volcano from the looks of it. Maybe a little bit different than just like Mindsmith Imbue throw. The shield phase also has a sort of timer mechanic involved, where the storm is going to continue to get more intense, making the boss stronger, and some of the other attacks are going to happen more often. If the storm reaches 100% intensity, then the team has to back off temporarily until it subdues a little bit, and then you can continue fighting the boss. This means that you don't lose the fight overall if you're too slow and the storm reaches 100% intensity, but it does take a little bit of time away from you fighting the boss, so it's going to slow the team down a lot if they're not fast enough to knock out the shield by the time the storm gets to 100% intensity. Looks like the developer team has put in some effort into making the skilling boss a little bit more engaging and unique than the very first blog they put out on it, but overall, it's still a skilling boss, so it's not going to be very difficult to do, which is generally the mechanics that you're looking at for a skilling boss. It's widely available to anyone, but at the same time, it's not 100% brain dead, so not like a child could code a bot to do it. For the most part, actual gameplay is tough to visualize and judge until we actually get to sit down and try it, which is ironic since we have to vote it into the game before we get to sit down and try it. But also the gameplay involved isn't the only thing that's going to be added or the only thing that we're voting on. We've got some rewards to talk about too. First of all, the XP. Jagex has stated this range of XP rates should be expected when trying out the Tempoross. First glance, it looks like it's going to be one of the best fishing methods in the game outside of like 3-tick and 2-tick fishing, which does make some sense. Regular fishing is often very AFK, so overall the more click-intensive methods should be getting you better XP rate, which is the case for fishing currently, and will still be the case, it looks like, even if this boss is added into the game. It is worthy to note that these are just expected XP rates from Jagex. Once you have thousands of players trying out the content, it's very possible that somebody will find something. In fact, many people may find many somethings that can be done to speed things up a little bit. This is one of the reasons that I try not to make a guide on the content right when it comes out, and I still plan to do the same if this content does make it into the game. More often than not, there's going to be some minor tweaks to brand new content after a couple of weeks of it being in the game. This is because thousands of players can test these things far more efficiently than only a handful of developers can, and in general, not all of the tweaks to balancing should be 100% on the developers. Similar to giving us a chance to vote for content, Jagex tends to give us a chance to try out the content, give some feedback, and potentially see some changes. This part of the update seems to piss a lot of people off. Some players expect perfect content the very second that it's added to the game, each and every time the developers add something. And in fact, when changes are made, some players don't like those changes. When you're dealing with a group of players this large, that's always going to be a case, obviously, but when it comes down to it, to see better and more balanced content, we should be letting the players and the developers work together. Not everything's going to be perfect out the gate, but it is good to discuss and to update things. What about the non-XP rewards? Each of the rewards are going to have their own separate questions, so it's very possible that the boss makes it into the game with one or multiple of these rewards not getting in with it. This is the case in really anything being added to the polls, to be fair. Usually the first question is just about should they add the content, and then the next handful are about what rewards are we going to get. First of all, we have some non-unique action with regular fishing loot. Question 2 on the poll is going to ask if you should be able to gather some fish and other loot from pools of debris that are left after each kill. This will include other loot like ores, according to the blog. I personally don't really want a fishing boss to be like Winter Todd, where you can camp the boss for like 5 different skills worth of supplies, but I also think it makes a lot of sense that you would get some fish in each round. The goal of this video is not to sway votes one way or the other, rather just discuss the poll, giving anybody all the info they need to vote and letting them make a decision on their own. I do think though for question 2, maybe pools giving fish fish and then pools giving other resources could have been separate questions, but I think no matter what, if the question passes, it's going to come down to the first week or so of people grinding the boss to see just how balanced some of these drops are. To start with the possible uniques from the boss, we have Spirit Flakes. Spirit Flakes are going to be untradeable, and they'll be obtained from those debris pools, which give you the regular fish and whatnot. If you take these Spirit Flakes with you to other traditional fishing methods, they're going to give you a 50% chance to catch a second fish, giving no bonus XP, but making some fishing moneymakers a little bit boosted. This would stack with your Rada's Blessing also, which would put you at more than half of your catches would yield an extra fish. Overall, a surge of fish, not only from the possible boss rewards, but then also people fishing with these flakes, could cause the price of fish to drop a bit. I think this is more of an issue that stems from like PVM and other things like Winter Todd that give you fish that aren't fishing related in any way. But with many of those mechanics already being in the game, it's not really as common for them to be nerfed or removed to make something like a new fishing boss more valuable without breaking or destroying some of the prices. I'm a big fan of these flakes overall, and I am interested to see if they get in just how many flakes you're going to be able to get per hour and just how valuable they'll be to have. Clearly, if it takes you far too long to get these flakes, then they may not end up being very valuable to use. Next, we've got the Fish Barrel, which will also be untradeable and obtainable from the loot locations after each kill. The barrel is going to be a rare reward that sort of works like a looting bag for fishing. You can store up to 28 raw fish in the barrel, and it doesn't have to be all of the same fish. You're only going to be able to empty this barrel at the bank, again, like the looting bag. So this essentially cuts your total bank trips in half, which is very helpful for any fishing that requires banking. Obviously, there's still some methods like barbarian fishing and minnows, which don't require banking, but overall, this barrel could potentially be very useful. The barrel will have a second poll question to it asking if it should be attachable to the fish sack. The fish sack is a cosmetic item only available from aerial fishing, and it would make the sack a little bit more valuable and obviously save an inventory space when using the fish barrel, so it's an interesting add-on. The tackle box is another rare untradeable reward from the debris pool. The tackle box would be able to hold all sorts of fishing tools like rods and lobster pots and bait, and even your fishing outfit. It's not something that's going to make your fishing a lot faster, or really any faster or better GP, but it does organize your bank a little more, and more importantly, it clears up a few bank spaces. It's not a ton of space, but it will help a little bit. Overall, there's a trend in OSRS updates where we get all these brand new items to the game over and over again, and then we never get any extra bank spaces or ways to store them. There's a lot of things in the POH that help out, including a spot that you can store your angler gear in the POH. So there have been some updates to help with bank space, but something as small as the tackle box could still make a difference here. Another possible reward from the fishing boss will be the Spirit outfit. The outfit will be a cosmetic version of the angler's outfit, giving some more options for fashionscape, but also the outfit can be used as a rope during the wave attack, which will make the fight against the Tempoross a little bit more convenient, so there is some practical use to getting the outfit. To obtain the outfit, you will need the angler's set already, plus to have some spirit bait, which is obtained from those debris pools. Turning in the angler's outfit and spirit bait will return you with a spirit outfit. I don't know if the pieces can be changed back and forth to look like anglers. I don't think that's the case. I think you would have to get a second angler's set if you want to look like you're wearing anglers. And also, I don't know how much spirit bait is going to be required to turn this into spirit gear. The big cosmetic on this poll is the Harpoon Fish trophy. This trophy would be untradeable if it's added to the game, and it could be hung up in your player-owned home. Jagex states that this will be the rarest reward from the fishing boss if it does get in. This is kind of like a pet option for adding the boss. With Winter Todd, we got the Phoenix pet. Zolcano, we got that small cano. There's already a fishing pet in the game, and I assume there is a small chance of getting that fishing pet while doing the Tempoross. But they could have added a potential Tempoross pet too. I feel like they got fairly negative feedback when they added Herbivore though to the game, since there was already that Chinchompa pet. It kind of made it like there were two hunter pets. So if they added the Tempoross, it would feel like there's a second fishing pet. The thing is, they kind of did that with Zolcano already, giving us a Zolcano pet and having a mining pet option. So it gives a separate pet. I don't know exactly where they're going with it, but kind of the pet drop from this is going to be like the Harpoon trophy. It's an interesting untradeable, but it's mostly used for just filling up collection logs, because how many people go hang out at your house and check out your really dope trophy? One of the more interesting rewards being pulled is the Tome of Water, which is going to work very similar to a Tome of Fire. Water spells aren't as good as fire spells, so there's going to be some different benefits to the Tome of Water. Wielding a charged tome is going to provide unlimited water runes, a 20% accurate boost to your water spells, your curse spells, and binding spells on the standard spellbook. Plus, the curse spells are going to have a 50% increase to their effect, and binding spells will last 30% longer, which is very interesting and might be dangerous to folks out in the wilderness. The tome is charged with soaked pages, which clearly are going to be dropped by the fishing boss. Only combat water spells, curse spells, and binding spells will use any charges, 1 charge per spell, but for any other spells in the book, it works pretty much as a water staff in your shield slot. The tome and the pages are going to be some rare tradable rewards from the boss, adding a little bit of profit, but that depends on how much the book is in demand, and I don't know if it looks like it's going to be like best in slot for anything, so likely it'll settle at a fairly inexpensive price eventually. Also, spare tomes are going to be allowed to be exchanged for 50 soaked pages for any duplicates, which does help the price out a little bit. Recently, Jagex has been going through some of the skilling pets, adding a recolor option, and now they're looking at the heron pet. Poll question number 10 is going to be the last question about the Tempoross, and if it passes, you're going to be able to use spirit flakes on your heron to recolor it. A raw fish would change it back to white, and they're saying they're looking for a blue color on the recolor option, but I think the exact color for this recolor is still being discussed and is kind of a toss-up currently. Overall, I do like the rewards for the Tempoross. It seems like it's pretty fitting. None of it's very overpowered by any means. I can see where some complaints might come from underpowered gear coming from the boss, which could lead to the content being dead in the long run. But I think the XP rates here are going to keep the content alive for the most part. The fact that it's not as boring of a way to do fishing, it looks like, and could be a little bit faster, will probably keep people here. One thing that they could possibly do to help out the reward system is make some of the untradable things turn into those spirit flakes, similar to how the Tome of Water can turn into soaked pages, or like you could turn a Zulrah unique into Zulrah scales. Overall, it'd be cool to get some of these untradable items, and I think making them tradable takes away from the grind a little bit. Though out of the gate, some of the items would sell for a lot of money. Eventually, they're probably going to be pretty cheap, and making them tradable allows for people to just skip the content if they wanted these items, which contributes to killing the content rather than keeping it alive. Once you get a second untradable item, though, it's pretty worthless, so maybe if we could turn those untradables into spirit flakes, it'd be a bit of bonus gains. It'd make it nice when you get duplicates. The Tempoross brand new fishing boss is not the only topic on this poll. With the introduction of the fishing boss in the original blog, a lot of players said that they wish Jagex would take some time to give fishing trawler a little bit of love and some needed reworks. Jagex has offered a couple of poll questions to help change up the trawler a little bit, which are as followed. Question 11 asks, should a timer be added where the next trawler is going to start? I don't know why this one needs to be polled. If they can, just add a timer to tell people how long you have to wait for the boat to come back if you're not currently on the run. That seems helpful to everyone. I'd be surprised if this question didn't pass the poll. Question 12, should the activity timer in the trawler be replaced with a contribution meter? In other words, instead of just constantly keeping your meter above 0, there's going to be a certain threshold that you have to get to contribute, and if you hit that mark, you're guaranteed a reward. This means that some players can hit the minimal contribution and then just do nothing the rest of the trawler, which kind of means you have less teammates in the end game, but it also gives opportunities to reward players who do a lot of work with extra loot. For example, question 13. If the contribution meter is added, should players be given extra fish based on how much they contributed? Up to 50% more fish with full contribution. You don't get a ton of fish already from the trawlers, so this would be a nice boost for those who try hard. But overall, it wouldn't be broken since you already need to contribute a lot for the reward. And again, you don't get a ton of fish in the first place. It's not like this is turning a couple mil moneymaker to even more money by any means. Also on question 14, if the contribution meter is added, should the chance of receiving a heron pet be based off of how much you contributed? This would go from a 0% chance of the pet if you've contributed 0% to double the current chance if you reach full contribution. This looks like it would be a nice bonus for pet hunters, but at the same time, most pet hunters are not hanging out at the trawler for a fishing pet. I do think rewarding players who do more makes a lot of sense though. Question 15. Should the XP gained from fishing trawler be increased by 50% per fish caught at the end of the trawler? Again, I am not here to make you vote one way or the other, but the XP that you get on fishing trawler is straight doo-doo, so I do not think that a 50% increase would hurt. Question 16. Should repairing the net give a little bit of crafting XP? 5 XP per repair is pretty much non-existent, but I do think it makes sense to add a little bit of XP. Overall, the trawler is not very rewarding. Question 17, very similar. Should repairing the holes in the ship give construction XP? You do repair the holes a lot more often than the net, so this makes a little bit more of a difference, but again, it's not going to be that much. I think it makes sense to make the trawler slightly more rewarding though. Again, the XP here is so bad. I don't think it needs to be the best in the game by any means, but it's pretty much useless XP gains while you're trying to get your angler's outfit, so an increase wouldn't kill us. Question 18 is the big one though. Should the time that it takes to complete the trawler be reduced from a 10-minute run to a 5-minute run? They are going to make the drop rates of the angler's piece a little bit more rare to try to even it out, but overall it looks like it's going to be a little bit faster to grind out your anglers. Plus, this would basically double the XP and the GP per hour you're getting here. If you're looking for someone to buff the fishing trawler, this is your chance. This is the biggest one on the poll for that. The last question of the poll is going to be, if there's a contribution meter added, should they add kraken tentacles that occasionally attack the ship? This is the only poll question here that would actually change the gameplay of the trawler for the most part. Even though I'm not 100% sure why it would require the contribution meter, I feel like the activity meter, you could still add kraken changes to it if you had the old meter. But it seems like a very interesting mechanic having to axe away those tentacles occasionally and fix the holes that they make. I do think most players that were looking for a trawler rework were hoping for just different mechanics on the trawler, not only boosts in XP and rewards. So this is one of the more interesting questions for fishing trawler life. As I said before, my goal in this video is not to sway your vote one way or the other. I'm just another player who will be voting, and I'm sure as I hype up certain things or shut down other things, you can tell maybe which way I'm leaning to vote. But the goal here is just to discuss the poll, and then all of you get to make your own decision on what you're going to vote. The polls should be active as you're watching this video. If not, I have either released the video a little bit earlier than I expected to, and the poll should be out in the next few hours, or you're watching this video after the poll has closed, either in irony that nothing passed, or the fact that all of it passed and maybe it's looking a little different than the poll said. Who knows? We'll see in the future. If the poll does pass, I will be making a new video on the boss when it comes out, but for now, that is going to be the end of this video and the discussion on the fishing boss here. Thank you for watching this discussion on the possible upcoming fishing boss, and best of luck with your grinds, everybody.